Yeah, so Cody, you were saying, so it's almost gym, right? That's the
That's
name
right.
of the gym.
Correct.
Yeah, I love the background that your wife did.
Oh, thank you.
It's very
Yeah, she's
noticeable.
a very talented artist. So yeah, she's doing a great job with her own art and then also decorating the expansion. So she's doing another big mural back there. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. I used to train at this gym called Barbell Brigade.
Oh yeah, I've been to
In
Barbell Grade a
Oh,
bunch.
you been? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they're good guys. And then they have the big Barbell Brigade logo in the back, right? So then like
right.
when people are filming on social media, like oh, it's like oh, they're training at Barbell Brigade. So I feel like you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, I absolutely took inspiration from Bart Kwan at Barbell Brigade. He's an awesome dude.
So I guess Cody, maybe we can just start with the podcast and then we can just dive into some conversations.
All right, sounds good, man.
Yeah, so welcome to the Boostcamp podcast, Cody. It's an honor to talk to you again. So for those who don't know, we started Boostcamp over 2 years ago, and Cody has been one of our earliest supporters since when we were just building on the app. GZCL was like probably the first or second biggest program that we had on the app since the very early days.
Uh,
And Cody, you being extremely supportive of our product that we've been building. So we're very grateful to have you as a partner.
oh, well, thanks for asking me to be on the app. It's been great and it's really helping getting GZCLP and now Jacked and Tan 2.0 into a broader audience, people who want to use apps to run programs versus something more traditional like a spreadsheet or, just keeping a pen and paper notebook.
Yeah, I mean the GZCL program is has been immensely popular on Reddit and on many different websites for quite a long time, right? I mean, it's one of the
Hmm.
top searches, I feel like, when somebody searches for a program. And even on
Right.
Bootcamp, we have 20, I was just checking today, there's 22,000 people who are doing GZCL alone. So
Right. It's
just
pretty
it's
pretty amazing. I was looking at those figures and looking at all the different programs are on there and it's just far and away the most popular program on there. And I don't know, it's been an absolute blessing to have Boost Camp host GZCLP and yeah, it's really popular on Reddit. It's been out for a long time, I think since 2016 or so. Um, so it was popular before Boost Camp, but I do feel like Boost Camp has boosted its popularity.
I mean, how does it feel to make a program that's just used by so many people to get started with fitness, to hit PRs? What does it feel like to be the creator of something like that and giving it away for free?
It feels pretty good. I mean, when you just said that, I kind of got chills. Like it's amazing because the goal with that program was to get people to start using a program that moves them through a more periodized approach and they can start handling different weights at different volumes. And it's a little more complex than most beginner programs and even intermediate programs. It's a little bit more complex than some of those. Um, I just feel at the time when I had thought of the GZCLP program that many beginner and intermediate programs were just oversimplified. And so they were kind of catering to the lowest imaginable person that would come into the weight room with like the least amount of knowledge and experience and the least amount of desire to learn how to actually train.
Mhm.
So when I created the program, I try to fill that gap where it's like, okay, not everybody wants to learn how to program or learn how to train. They just want to come in and do what they're told. That's totally fine for many people. But there are a whole lot of others who at the time just didn't have that option. They didn't have like a good entryway into learning more advanced program concepts. And so
Mhm.
I think that I did a pretty good job integrating those concepts into an entry level strength training program. And I mean, at the time, I was, saying, my goal is to make the world a stronger place, one person at a time. And with the GZCL method, I've certainly accomplished that. I get people messaging me every day whether that's through Reddit or emails, Instagram. And now with Boostcamp, it's pretty amazing just to see how many, tens of thousands of people are running this program around the world. I don't know. I didn't think it would be as popular. Certainly had high hopes for it, but I think that the popularity has surpassed what I expected.
Yeah, I mean, as a product maker now myself, right,
Yeah.
with an app, it's a little different than making a program, but it's
Sorry, my
certainly.
sorry, my cat is like going bananas over here. Just wants to be like
Oh,
in the
hello.
video. Yeah.
Let's see
This
the
is
cat.
this is Kiki Meow Meow. It's my daughter's cat.
Kiki Meow Meow.
Yeah, that's her
That's so cute.
government name. So she's very curious. Sorry about that.
No, no worries, no worries. Yeah, I'm curious. So, for example, right, with Boostcamp, the product is constantly evolving. We
Mhm.
get feedback from users, both positive and negative, and with the feedback, we iterate on the product. And Boostcamp has changed, probably 1,000 times over now, from the past 2 years, and we've taken some leaps and bounds in terms of the what it looks like now versus before. So with the GZCL program, when you put it out in 2016, I'm sure you've also learned quite a bit as well from your training.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
how is the program? Do you feel like there should be like a GZCL 2.0? Like, how do you
Well,
think about stuff like that?
um, well, yeah, the short answer there is yes. There's been a huge change in my worldview when it comes down to strength training, and whether that's just to get bigger or if you want to be more prioritized towards just gaining strength in the compound exercises, like squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, whatever. Um, and there's different kind of paradigms with whether you're focused on one goal or another, whether you're focused on an athletic performance or an aesthetic improvement. um, so there are since the program's become more popular in the last several years, there's been a lot of people who've reached out to me like with questions, like, well, how would you change this program to cater more towards these
Mm,
aesthetic goals? And maybe they want to focus on their delts or their legs or something like that. And then conversely, there are people like, well, I want to get stronger, but I can't overhead press. What can I do instead? And so I've provided a lot of feedback to people who've just reached out to me with these questions. And so from these questions has come different variations that people have developed through their own curiosity, right? And
mm.
people even message me, like, hey, I did these changes. Do you think this is good? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, that looks good. And they move on, they do their program, they email me back months later and they're like, hey, that works great. Um, so the GZCLP program has, I mean, probably countless variations that are out there based on individuals, their goals and their needs, what equipment they have access to, etc. When it comes to me kind of being the funnel that all this feedback comes into, I've started to, I would say in the last year, condense some of these ideas and concepts that people have approached me with for their own training. And so I am in the process of developing a similar progression concept, but with a different volume and intensity like format, basically. So
Interesting.
there is in the pipeline right now the what you might call GZCLP 2.0. I've got a different name for it. And when that comes out, you'll probably be one of the first to know, since I would love to have that hosted on Boostcamp.
Wow, okay. That's cool. So is it, with the GZCLP, the structures, there's the pyramid, right? With the T1, T2, and T3.
Right.
Is it following still the same pyramid, or it'll be a different type of construct?
It's going to still use that same pyramid analogy
Mm,
to format the training. The sets and reps are different, and the progression itself is fairly similar in concept, but there's a lot of people out there who do not want to do heavy singles. Like at the end of the GZCLP program, you've got batch singles, and that's there's a good reason for that. It's to get people used to handling really heavy weight and to get comfortable psychologically with getting under a heavy barbell repeated times. The other aspect of that is practicing your walkout with a heavy weight. When you're just doing, like, let's say 3 sets of 5 reps, how many times are you practicing your walkout and you're practicing your setup? It's, very little compared to getting 10 opportunities to get under a heavy bar, get yourself psychologically ready to do that. And then you practice your unrack with the bench or the walkout with the squat. So that's one of the reasons why I really like the T1 progression, is that something that no intermediate or novice programs get people to do, is to focus on those often forgotten aspects of getting stronger, your setup and your walkout, everything that happens before you actually start the lift. Those singles give that opportunity. However, not a lot of people like that. So taking the feedback from that, I've changed to the T1 progression. It will exclude singles, and then that kind of carries on down through the tiers. And so it's very similar in nature to the original GZCLP program. It just is higher volume. Let's just say that.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the idea. And that also goes into a trend that I've seen over the last few years, that people are enjoying higher volume training. And so uh, what the customer wants, they develop a need for that. And so as a person who's been creating programs for the last 10 plus years, it's my business to be putting products out there that people want to use. And so there might come a time when GZCLP is not as popular as it is now. And it's in my best interest to provide products that people want to keep using. And so this is something that I've been working on for the last year or so, maybe a little bit more. And I do hope to have it ready in 2024. I'm usually pretty slow to turn things out because I like to take my time with things.
Are you testing
And
it yourself, like with clients and stuff?
yes, yes. So that was even the case with all of my other programs, whether it was me running them before, like with UHF, Ultra High Frequency, another popular program of mine, or Jacked and Tan 2.0, the original Jacked and Tan. I mean, there's on my YouTube going back almost 10 years, you could see me running these programs. And it's not like I'm labeling the YouTube video, this is week 2, day 3, Ultra High Frequency or something. But in the narration of those videos, I'm talking about the program that I'm running, and it's kind of the rough draft. As I'm
Hmm.
doing it, I'm figuring out where the problems are and where I can improve things. But now that I have my own gym, I've got an online coaching business that I've been doing for 10 years or so now. I've had the opportunity to train people and learn more, and run people through the initial phases of these programs and identify what works, what doesn't work. And ultimately, that gets turned into a neat package for people to run on, Boostcamp, for example, or pick it up off of Reddit or my blog.
Yeah. I think the brilliant thing that you did with GZCL is having this, having the pyramid, having the principle at hand where, okay, this is the structure in which you should think about your training, and you can modify it, you can personalize it based on your individual goals that you might have, your lack of equipment or the equipment access that you might have. I think that, you're keeping, people are able to keep the essence of the program,
Hmm.
but are able to make personalized modifications to address their own needs. So they're able to stick on the program for much longer than if there was no concept behind the program and people are just sort of following it blindly.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's, um, I'd been modeling my training around that pyramid analogy since about probably 2011, 2010 or so. And it's not like anything I just inherently created. I guess I just had the ability to distill it down into its purest essence and its most easily understandable nature. And having that pyramid structure is something that almost anybody can immediately grasp. And I think that's um, one of the best things I've done for the strength training community. And whether or not somebody's using one of my specific programs, people message me and say, "Hey, I'm running this program, but I find myself, tailoring it to that pyramid analogy where I've got my T1, T2, and T3, and they'll ask me questions like, "Hey, what would you do in this case? I'm running, let's say, 531, another really popular program that actually is based around very similar principles. If you look at 531, a lot
Mm.
of times it has your main lift and as its assistance exercises and then its accessories. It's just that, it's not framed within the symbol of a pyramid. And I think people, when you give them symbols to identify ideas with, then they can grasp those ideas and concepts more easily. And then from that, it's just like a mental game kind of how you can mix and match these parts and pieces to achieve your goals based on your limitations, your abilities, what equipment you have access to, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's brilliant. So going back to the GZCL 2.0, because I'm
Mm,
really curious now on like what it would look like. So one thing you mentioned is it's going to be a higher volume.
right. Yeah, that's the basic premise behind the change. And so what I'm trying to do is essentially like with all of my programs, there is a roadmap that one could take to go from new lifter to advanced lifter and even a competitive lifter. And so with programs I already have out there, for example, there would be like, let's say somebody just started joining the gym. They just joined my gym, Alma's gym, and they scan my QR code at the gym. They download Boostcamp and they start running GZCLP. Well, they run that for several months and they get to the point to where maybe it's boring or they feel they're not progressing well. They feel like it's limiting them in some way. So then they might move on to another program of mine that's popular called the Rippler. And the Rippler has another progression format to it. It's its own unique program, but it's a great next stepping stone in this, we'll say like the GZCL canon of programs, right? From the Rippler, that person might run it a few times and get very strong. I personally have been working with a guy that's in Romania, and I mean, he's used the Rippler many, many times, and he's, squatting nearly 600 pounds,
Wow.
deadlifting likewise, benching almost 400 pounds. And this is just running an off the shelf training program and not even working with me week in, week out as a coach. This is, it just shows the quality of these programs I've put out for free. So just because it's free
Mm.
doesn't mean it's low quality. I've got a whole different reason for doing the free programs thing. And we could talk about that later if you'd like to. But after the Rippler, you get really strong. And then maybe that person wants to go into like a more bodybuilding kind of focused program where they aren't necessarily worried about peaking their one rep maxes. They just want to do something higher volume, maybe a little bit more challenging for the volume. And so they would go into something like Jacked and Tan 2.0 and then they run that. And then maybe they want to compete in powerlifting meet and they run an ultra high frequency program. And I've got a 5 week and 9 week, and then you can run a 3 week peak on that. And these programs are all found on my blog, Swole at Every Height. And there's a compendium that's in my blog. It's actually like a Google sheet. And so there's all these different programs out there. But what I'm trying to do with this GZCLP 2.0 that we'll call it here for now, is to integrate that with some more of my present worldview on training, where some things are maybe better trained harder or easier, or there are all these different factors that I've learned that actually matter and
Mm.
have a place in a program. Try to integrate these things into a framework that places it within this sort of roadmap of GZCL programs. I don't want it to necessarily create a whole new roadmap, but I would like somebody to perhaps be able to use GZCLP 2.0, and then maybe that would be a good another option to start with, and then step into a program like the Rippler or Jacked and Tan 2.0 or UHF, so on and so forth. There isn't a specific order in which you would have to do these things. I mean, I've seen, advanced level lifters use the GZCLP um, sets and rep scheme and the progression format. I've seen them use that successfully. And these are guys that are already squatting 500 or 600 pounds. And it's just that they understand, like you were talking about earlier, they understand the framework enough that they can tailor that program to their needs. And so with the new 2.0 version, it's just going to come to the table with some, I would say, more up-to-date concepts, and also hopefully it'll fulfill the need of the modern trainee who right now, the likings for people getting into training, they're wanting to do more volume is what I've noticed a trend. And I might be wrong. I might like not see the trend accurately or something. But there's kind of two different trends happening right now. High volume on one side, and then you've got like lower volume, but like training to failure, like a high intensity um, camp, so to speak. And so that's something I personally don't have a whole ton of experience modeling an entire training program after, going to failure on every single set. And that's not necessarily something I agree with, especially for a novice or an intermediate trainee. So a lot of that camp's concepts around training, though I don't agree with them, I don't necessarily think they're totally wrong. Those things are just not going to be a major aspect of GZCLP 2.0.
Yeah, I do find, like you said, right, there's different camps within training
Right.
and the trends move back and forth.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, everybody's doing low volume, high intensity. And then you have people then who try to stand out, with their content, be like, hey, this is the wrong way to train. It's killing your gains. High volume is the approach. And then the masses move towards the other end of the pendulum. And then it kind of swings back and forth.
Yeah.
So when you see enough times, you kind of wonder like, okay, maybe just there isn't one right approach. Maybe both approaches work. You can always find studies and data that back up either direction.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's, I guess like it's just really like what a person believes and they can stick to for long enough, which is probably
Hmm.
more important than uh kind of like switching back and forth very often.
Yeah. The principles of progress are really just three concepts. It's consistency, effort, and patience. And like you said, as long as those three things apply, everything else is secondary or tertiary. It's like it matters less and less. If you don't have those three things, there you'll never find a program that works.
Mm,
So without consistency, effort, and patience, um, y- good luck with any program, with any coach. You could have somebody there hands-on, day in, day out. And if you're lacking one of those three major components of progress, you might consistently show up and you might be patient with your progress. But if you're not putting in the effort, well, you're not going to make progress. You're missing a fundamental aspect of progressing, whether it's your size, your strength, your stamina, whatever it is with your physicality. And
mm,
so whether or not these two different camps, like I say, a high volume or a high effort, approach, training to failure, these two camps both rely on those same three concepts of consistency, effort, and patience.
right. And they all fall into the pyramid. So you can,
Yeah, there's exactly. There's going to be that's a truism I've found with that pyramid analogy is that like almost every training program is going to have something like that. I mean, it's very rare where somebody's training program is going to break out and be so abstract that there's not going to be a hierarchy of sorts. And it might not have like the same 1, 2, 3 ratio as what I lay out with the GZCL method. It might be other things, but I mean, for the most part, people are going to have a hierarchy in their training, and hierarchies are inherently pyramid shaped. I guess there could be some other models out there, but whatever. That's something else.
yeah. Someone might invent like a rectangle, a square, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a cube.
I mean, there is the
Um,
the cube method from Brandon Lilly that was popular. Geez, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago or so. But
yeah,
that was more about like cycling exercises and stuff. Anyways, yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of different things that people will model training around. But I do think having a framework that is easily understood is so important to a person actually taking charge of their training. And I think that's another aspect that's often uh, either not addressed or maybe it's downplayed is somebody having ownership over their own training. And, with the customization options that GZCLP has, whether if you're running it pen and paper or on the Boostcamp app, those customization options, um, and the having the AMRAP sets, that gives ownership to the individual of like actually putting in the effort and making their progress something that they can be proud of as a result.
yeah. I'm curious, going back to something you said before. So since 2016, right, what are the three biggest lessons that you've learned in your own training?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say the biggest lesson that I have learned since 2016 is the importance of having um, a work capacity. And so,
Work capacity.
work capacity, right? So, going back to, you know, great coaches that I look up to, Louis Simmons really popularized in the powerlifting world the concept of general physical preparedness. And so it's more than just going into the gym and doing squat, bench, deadlift. Louis Simmons is a fan of pulling sleds, pushing sleds, doing a variety of different work just to improve the baseline ability of somebody's physicality, because then they can go in the gym and do a hard workout and recover from a hard workout more
Mm,
rapidly. So a person might have the skill to be a good squatter, but if they don't have a base level of work capacity, they're only going to be able to do so much squatting before their recovery is just not able to keep up with those workouts. And so, work capacity, I've come to realize, is so foundational to any training program, to anyone's physical development, that it should come first. So, if someone is just getting off the couch and they've had a life of inactivity, GZCLP is a good start for learning how to lift weights, but that individual should also do other things too. They should be doing, you know, miles on the treadmill or swimming in a pool or rowing or biking, pushing a sled, pulling a sled. They need to do something that just improves their baseline capacity.
mm,
And although I understood this concept before 2016, I'd learned about it, I understood it. I just didn't know the importance of having GPP, and I was kind of forced to learn that and had an epiphany moment when I moved up here to the mountains and I began shoveling snow like 9 months out of the year. And my work
mm.
capacity improved, my workouts got easier, the aches and pains that were just constant went away. And it was just an aha sort of moment where it was like, oh, well, I'm not in the gym to get stronger to snow shovel, the snow shoveling is actually making me stronger while I'm in the gym.
Mm.
And so that emphasis of work capacity is something that I will just preach on to people new in my gym, who are, just starting to lift weights, even new lifters who reach out to me for coaching. A lot of times I just tell people, hey, do this for a couple of months and then contact me when you're ready to like start lifting seriously, because there's so many people out there who are hungry to lift. They might pick up a training program like GZCLP and it's too much for them. I mean, they might start with starting strength or 531 or any of these other popular programs out there. They just don't have the base work capacity to benefit from these programs as much as they hope. And you'd be surprised how many people would actually um, be better lifters if they just did a little bit more general physical preparedness training. Like someone who's a 500-pound squatter that's had a plateau for a while, maybe they don't need to squat anymore. Maybe that person just needs to improve their GPP so that they can recover better from their workouts. So that's kind of the first thing. That was a long answer there. The second thing would just be there are more variables to training than exercise variations, volume, and intensity. So many training programs out there kind of focus on those three. And then there is a progression that's kind of built into a program, right? Where you're adding intensity. That's the most popular way for people to get into lifting weights. It's okay. You do 5 sets of 5 reps and you add weight every single week. When you fail, you deload back to 80% or whatever, and then you work your way back up. Well, I mean, besides the whole work capacity aspect that I already went on that tangent about, um, there are other things a person can focus on. Density is one that I found to be immensely helpful in my training and with a lot of my clients
What is
is
that? What is density?
density. Okay, so that's work per unit of time.
Hmm.
So you can think of this in a single set. Like if you last week, let's say you did a set of 10 reps squats with 135 pounds, and we'll just say it took you 30 seconds. Okay. If I can get you to move that in 25 seconds, you've increased the density of that one set,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then other things follow with that. Like you're probably moving a little bit faster through the eccentric phase. And so that would highlight, okay, perhaps that person has improved their control through the lowering phase, right? They've gotten more comfortable lowering weight faster. They could take more advantage of the stretch reflex as a result. Perhaps you've also, at the same time, improved the concentric speed, how fast you actually lift the weight. And so across a 10 rep set, you've completed it more reps in a shorter amount of time. And that's just density in one set. More often, I'm looking at someone's um, overall workout, though. Okay. So if I give you a workout that, let's say, has 6 exercises, last week it took you an hour and 20 minutes. This week it takes you an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. You've increased your training density. You've gotten the same amount of work done in less time. And so what having a density progression does, it allows for someone to have two different kinds of progressions going on at the same time. So if you're doing the same amount of sets and reps week after week after week, and you're increasing the load, you're following an intensification, you're adding weight to the bar every single week. That's one form of progression. But if I also say to you, like, hey, Michael, like, I want you to try to rest a little bit less every week. And let's see if we can get these workouts completed a little bit faster. That's a second form of progression that you're
Hmm.
including. And that density aspect, it is a component of improving someone's work capacity.
It's GBP. Is that considered GBP, you think?
It's an element of it, right? So with a density progression, it's a an easy way for someone to include a component of GPP into their existing program. So if someone's really strapped on time, I work with a lot of professionals that have very demanding jobs and they have a limited amount of time to train. And so with that limited amount of time to train, these individuals don't have a lot of time like to have an extra workout where they're just pushing a sled, and that's boring, it's monotonous. And if I'm going to have a client quit rapidly, I'll just have them push a sled for a whole workout. But I don't want to do that. I want
Right.
somebody to see progress and actually enjoy their training. I'm going to have a challenge that is achievable. And so by just telling somebody, hey, this is the training program, we don't have a lot of flexibility with your time. So let's try to just rest a little bit less. And then maybe over the course of a few months, this number of exercises takes you from 60 minutes to complete down to maybe 45 minutes to complete. And now you have an increased fitness, increased strength and stamina, but also you got another 15 minutes in your workout period where we can include more work, thereby increasing their work capacity. And so having density as an aspect of training is something that I've communicated with the people who I work with in the gym and online. I've tried to communicate to them the importance of that. It's not as popular a form of progression because sometimes people think, well, I need to rest 5 minutes before I get back under the bar for the squats. Okay, well, sure, if you've got that kind of time and that luxury, but you can also get stronger resting less, and you can get your fitness to improve with a little bit less rest. And I think there is a psychological element of it too, where, okay, I want you to get under the bar before you think you're ready. And that carries with it a different kind of development for a lifter, because that person will rack the bar like, wow, I didn't think I was ready to hit that set, but it felt good. And that's, a eureka moment for many people where they realize that sitting around, taking these optimal rest times, um, they might be,
Eat it Rice Krispie.
hey, yeah, they're scrolling Instagram, whatever it is, and for some people that works and they like it, and I'm not trying to pass judgment, but having a density aspect to your training program, I've found to be very helpful with myself, with people who I work with in person and online. And so density, that's one, it's kind of aspect of that work capacity thing. And then the third thing, it'd be another variable in training, and this is rest days. And anybody who's been following my training for the last few years knows I haven't been taking
No
rest
rest
days.
days.
Yeah, and it kind of just started as a test to see if I could do it. Um, it also was a way for me to not have an excuse to not train. There was, a time in my life where I didn't own a gym. I had a normal job. Well, at the time, it wasn't really a normal job. I was working in an abandoned gold mine doing like labor essentially to do some water reclamation work. So it was a very demanding job. And although I was never like seriously hurt, anytime when you're in an abandoned gold mine, there's an inherent risk involved. And so it was a physically demanding job. And, there was days I'd get home from work and I was like, I don't want to work out, like I just um, was in knee deep water for 8 hours hauling around, you
Damn.
know, whatever it was, all by hand. So, I would come up with excuses way too often why I couldn't train. And, I started training and I was like, okay, let's just see how long I can go without rest days. And the workouts weren't like extreme. I'm not running a jacked and tan 2.0 workout that might take me 2 hours and like absolutely wrecks me. But by having that priority of not taking rest days, I was able to better learn these other variables in training that I could control as a lifter that allowed me to have greater consistency with not just the training frequency, but greater consistency also with my efforts in the gym. Because there'd be some days where it's like, okay, I have to work out. I haven't worked out in like 3 days. I don't feel like it. This is the program that I have to run. So then what do? I don't put in the effort. I show up and I do the work, but I'm kind of just, um, I'm mailing in the workout, so to speak. um, by not taking rest days, it's that's the main priority. The next priority is, okay, how can I um, maximize my effort for this workout, right? So there's been times where I got sick and it's like, okay, well, the best way that I can train on this day is to not, do the pre-planned squat workout I had in mind for this session. Instead of that, I know I can do an arm workout with much better effort. Not like I'm training to like failure on these things, but I'm actually putting in like the psychological and the physical effort to have a quality training session. And by not taking rest days, I've been able to better understand these other variables, whether it's volume, intensity, variations, density. There's these, those are kind of like the main metrics that I kind of focus on with my training and with a lot of people I train. Um, the no rest days thing kind of forces you to take greater control over the individual workout. And so without taking rest days for almost 5 years now, um, I've gotten bigger than I've ever been before. Um, I've PR'd my squat, and just last week, I'm talking literally PR'd my squat from in this year of 2023 from a 1 rep max lifetime PR to a 100 rep max lifetime PR. So it's
Wait,
not
what do you
like
mean? What do you just
like
explain
do
that?
so all right, we'll kind of backtrack. About this time last year, there was a thread on Reddit. And it's like, okay, well, what are your goals? It was like your New Year's resolution thread in the weight room subreddit. And I had already this idea milling around in my head a long time ago before I really got into powerlifting. I was doing a lot of high rep squatting. I think my very first YouTube video was when I was in Afghanistan. I did 135 pounds squatting to a bench, so it was above parallel. Um, I wanted to do that for 100 reps, but I only did 99. So I
Really? You
couldn't
couldn't
I
do one
couldn't
more?
count. I couldn't count. I thought I did 100, but
Oh, I
after
see.
watching the video, I forgot how to count
Damn.
momentarily, I guess. So that was back in like 2010 or 2011 when I did that. And kind of, at that time I had been lifting for several years. I was on active duty and doing a lot of higher volume training than at that time. And just as a tangent, it kind of is funny how it circles back around, right? So last year I was kind of having like milling around in my head doing some high rep squats, and I think I was on a podcast with Bromley, and I think we talked about doing some high rep squats because he is familiar. Like I think it's Jesse Morunde. I'm probably butchering that name, but that guy did like ludicrous sets of squats, like 315 for 50 reps. This guy was an animal. Um, and so I had laid out in this Reddit thread 2023 goals to like do 135 pounds for 100 reps, 185 pounds for 75 reps, 225 for 50 reps, 275 for 35 reps, 315 for 25 reps, 365 for 15 reps, 405 for 10, 455 for 5, 500 for 3, and then 525 for 1. And I didn't really include that 525 for 1 in that thread, mostly because I'm like, dude, that's an all-time like one rep max. I'm 38. Like the last time I PR'd my squat one rep max was in 2016. And so, this is, you know, what is that, 7 years later or something? I didn't want to be so bold to say like, okay, I can definitely PR my one rep max squat now that I'm almost a decade older or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but I
you're
managed to
like
do
LeBron
exact
James.
Yeah, I managed to do exactly that this year. And so this year I was able to knock down all of those sets. And that's without taking rest days. So, just
Wow.
on this last Mondays when I completed that last set, it was 185. The goal was 75. I did 76. Um, and I've since learned my lesson that, when I think I'm done, probably just do one more because I probably
Just in
forgot
case.
just forgot how to count momentarily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was able to do that set this last Monday. It's Thursday. My legs are still pretty sore, but by having different variations of, workouts through this last year, I was able to get, these lifetime PRs on the squat without taking rest days. And so, part of the no rest days thing, it did it it didn't start like this, but it grew into it of just like proving the point of rest days for people who lift weights are kind of like this golden calf where it's like, oh, I train so hard, I need rest days. You don't understand how hard I train. No, you don't understand. I train harder than you. I need to take all these rest days. I can only train 3 days of work because you don't see I'm training to everything to failure. And time and again, these people have underwhelming results. And a big part of that is they can't recover, so they do feel they need those rest days. But the actual reason why they can't recover is because, to go back to the first point, their work capacity sucks. And so by not taking rest days, I've managed to achieve all kinds of things. And first and foremost, gradually improve my work capacity so
Mm.
that, like this morning, I can go outside the gym, show up at 4:30 in the morning, shovel snow for 30 minutes, and then I can still have a good workout today. That shoveling snow for 30 minutes did not just drain me. That shoveling snow for 30 minutes is like a casual warm up, if anything.
Yeah.
So I do have a joke. I think on a YouTube video some years ago, I joked about nobody's ever been in snow shovel shape. and that still is true. I mean, I will get broke off by the snow shovel depending on the storm. But I'm in enough shape now that I could confidently say I could shovel snow for hours and I would still go work out afterwards. And that just all comes back to that first point of the importance of general physical preparedness and developing your work capacity. Without that, you're going to have poor recovery. You're going to benefit from your workouts even less, no matter how hard or close you push to failure. And it's truly the foundation of progress is your general physical preparedness.
Yeah, well, that's inspiring. I mean, what is it about shoveling snow that makes it so tiring? Is it like the weird position, the instability?
I mean, have you
It's
ever
crazy
shoveled snow?
hard. I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Okay, so like
So, I mean, it snows at least 10 times a year and I have to shovel, and it's so difficult. It's so draining.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're right. It's difficult, it's draining, you're in awkward positions. It's like repetitive task. It's upper body intensive. And so I think there's just something about the act of shoveling snow that it's like if I could just have an endless pit of snow to throw people in and just be like, all right, this is your workout today. Just do this and like come back in an hour. Like people would see phenomenal results. And I'm probably exaggerating, but it's also like there's an inherent challenge to it. Like, okay, like how fast can I get this done for? Can I scoop up this big thing? I kind of turn it into a game. Like, what's the
Yeah,
heaviest one that I could lift?
yeah.
There becomes like a fitness element to it. And that's probably just the way that I think about the task now. Um, so I don't know. It's just for me been one of those tasks that has opened my eyes to the importance of general physical preparedness. You don't have to shovel snow. You could push
Yeah.
a sled, you could pull a sled. It's just one of those things that get your heart rate up and just do it for 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, 4 hours. It kind of depends here. I live at over 10,000 feet. My gym is the highest gym in North America. It very well may be the highest gym in the world. There's only 13 other places higher than where I live in the world. And most of those are like mining camps. They're in Peru and stuff. I can't imagine
Wow.
these Peruvian miners are, hitting a Gold's Gym after the fact, however long they work. But I haven't done the research. There might be a gym that's higher in the world, but, Alma's gym is the highest in North America. It snows quite a bit here. And just to open the doors, some days, many days, I have to shovel snow.
Is it when you find visitors who come to your gym, do they say it feels different to live at that high of an altitude versus
Oh, for
lower?
sure. For sure. We actually have oxygen concentrators at the gym for
Wow.
people who push themselves a bit too hard. I do give them a warning, like, hey, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from Houston. I'm from Miami. I'm from LA, right? I've had people come from Europe that have come into the gym and trained. And so every time I'm like, okay, well, one, pace yourself. If you're used to taking, 1 minute rest periods between exercises, just count on it doubling at least. If you're used to doing 10 exercises in a workout, just consider getting half that done to be good.
Even breathing is GPP at Almost Gym.
I mean, truly, I've got a guy in the gym. He'll be here for the next month. He's up here on vacation. He's from Arkansas or something like that. Uh, Former college football player. The dude's in good shape, um, very strong. And, he was commiserating with me this morning just about, how difficult it is to recover from a set. You do a 10 rep set and you get winded, and it's just a matter of the elevation. It does get to you. But, I've lived up here since 2016. I've adapted to it. And it's just one of those things I do try to inform people as best as I can that, you don't expect to do your usual workout and feel the same way afterwards.
I mean, on the contrary, have you gone down to lift at like a gym in Houston, like a lower altitude gym, and do you feel like you're almost on ultra performers?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, my folks, they moved to like near Gulf Shores, Alabama, years and years ago. and we'll go down there and visit them. And I'll actually be down there for Christmas this year. And so when I go down there, I still lift. And it was a couple of years ago, it was before COVID. I was at a YMCA lifting, and it was the first time that I had gone down to sea level, um, and really like trained. I was like in the early parts of this no rest days thing. And I noticed that, like, one, I didn't have to rest as long between sets, but two, the amount of volume that I could actually do was
Mm.
limited, not because of my energy levels, but because the pump was unreal.
Oh.
So like I would be typically doing, like, say a handful sets for bench press. I would get like 3 sets into it, and at the end of my third set, I'm like, my pecs are like so like pumped that it like hurts. Or like doing bicep curls likewise. Like the incredible pumps. That's all I could say is when I go down to sea level, one, I'm not huffing and puffing. Like I could probably hold my breath for the whole 60 minutes and work out and be just fine. Just absorbing it through my skin. Just kidding. That's not going to happen. But it's not like I can do the same amount of work just because there's something to do with the way that your blood changes living here at elevation. And looking into this just like not too deeply, like I'm not a scientist and I don't understand these things as well as, someone who is very familiar with performance enhancing drugs. Maybe I should talk with Derek from More Plates, More Dates or something. Like that guy knows a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But like the drug EPO, um, that's what cyclists take to improve. I think it increases
Mm.
their hematocrit levels. I'm not exactly sure. I used to know this. Um, but recently, one of the Chinese weightlifters, I think it was like Lu Xiaojun or someone, he had an old urine sample or blood sample that was tested, and actually he popped hot for EPO. And this dude is a weightlifter, and people were
Mm.
thinking beforehand, only cyclists and endurance athletes would benefit from taking EPO, but he, tested positive for EPO. And I think there is something to the high elevation adaptation when it comes to size and strength and just general athletic performance. It's more than just um, you know, benefiting from an anabolic steroid or something like that. Um, so the only thing I could assume is that there's the hematocrit levels maybe benefits your recovery so that you can do more workouts and recover faster from your workouts. Just assuming why a weightlifter would take EPO. So I'm not sure. um, there is probably something to that, though. I haven't looked too deeply into it.
You should fund a research study, that shows lifting at high altitudes increases your VO2 max.
I mean, I think that if somebody were to live up here like I do and then train up here, become fully adapted, and then maybe do like a 2 or 3 week peaking phase at sea level, there would be some benefit there. I think that there would be. It's just a matter of, the timing and all of that because the body will adapt rapidly to living at sea level. Now, could somebody buy like an oxygen deprivation chamber and and sleep in that and then go work out? I mean, sure, like that'd be an interesting thing for somebody to do. Like if they live, in LA and they train at Barbell Brigade, they sleep in an oxygen chamber to get their hematocrit levels and their red blood cell counts up, and they go work out. Like I'd be interested to see what their results are. Conversely, I have talked with one of my members at my gym. He's a very accomplished ultra marathon runner. And since I have the oxygen concentrators, he and I have talked about training with supplemental oxygen. So whether, it's him doing some runs and stuff inside the gym on a treadmill, this guy holds world records on the treadmill. It's insane. Or with me, like lifting weights with like an oxygen mask on and having, just oxygen pumped into my face. And now I need to look into this more to see if that's actually if that would actually work. This is all just, like we're working out together and stuff and just having these ideas, we're bouncing off of each other. Um, but in the middle of a workout, I've, put on a pulse oximeter on my finger and yeah, my oxygen's down, you're breathing hard. And so the oxygen saturation goes down. It would be interesting to see, what a workout might be like with supplemental oxygen up here. I don't know. I've not really done it enough yet to definitively say that it's, you know, exponentially better or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, y- I feel like Almost Gym has potential to be a leading research center.
That'd
You
be
got like
pretty
Andrew
sweet.
Huberman, you got a bunch of these people here, to train all the elite athletes. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that I think are on the cutting edge of um, improving human physicality. And whether that's through nutrition or drugs, training plan design, whether it's through the psychological aspect of coaching an athlete, that's a very important thing. And then, I think little old me just here up at elevation, giving very high level athletes a place to come train. I think high elevation training is something that will be more sought after in the future. There's a lot of people who have, well, I say a lot. That's an exaggeration. There's been several people who have come to my gym because they're preparing for something. And although may not stay here long enough to benefit biologically from the adaptation, like you have to be up here for almost a month to get fully adapted. Um, some people will just come up here because they know it's harder and psychologically they want to push themselves. Like they expect that their workouts are going to be tougher. And so these are triathletes, they're Ironman competitors, they're marathoners, and they come and hit the gym because like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be sucking wind, but I want to develop that mental fortitude to continue pushing. And
Yeah.
so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is like I've had people come to the gym and they do stay here for more than a month. They stay here for several months and they're training for an expedition to climb a mountain. And just this last summer, we had a person doing exactly that, coming to my gym almost every day. They're doing a workout in the gym and they're going out and like hiking a 14er. And they're doing this to prepare to climb Denali or some other 20,000 plus foot mountain in the world. And so although my gym is you know it's a community centered gym, like I live in a town of just 300 people. um the running joke is half the town joined my gym
Yeah.
because
Are you the
that's
only gym or is there a competitor?
the nearest competitor would be down the road 6 or 7 miles away, but it's a community rec center.
Oh, okay.
And so,
That's different.
yeah, it's different. Like they've got, a small pool, like half of it's for kids to play in, the other half is like just 2 lanes for people to swim laps in. And
Yeah.
it's a junior size Olympic pool. So like you're doing, you know, very quick laps, turning around a lot. You get dizzy swimming laps in that thing. And they've got, more cardio, um, and a limited, I think they have like 1 or 2 barbells there. So it's not really a competitor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When the government built that rec center, they like looked at the demographics at the time. They're like, oh, okay, it's mostly like retirees that live up here. We're going to build a rec center that they're going to use. And, it left a gap for the, you know, the people who are like really serious about their physical training. And so my gym is modeled after the gyms I liked to visit when I was living in California, for example, going to Barbell Brigade. I would go down to San Diego, go to a World Gym, um, go to a Kratos gym in Lake Forest. I lived near that place. I don't even know if that's still around. Um, and then, there's here in Colorado, I was training at Armbrust, which is like the bodybuilding mecca of, you know, Colorado. I mean, people really come from around the world to go train at Armbrust. Like Phil Heath trains there. Um,
Mhm.
I was training there before my last powerlifting meet, before I moved up to the mountains. It's a phenomenal gym. So if I could just, emulate them 25% as good as Barbell Brigade has done it, like that's going to be a successful gym up here. Now I'm trying to do as good. Barbell Brigade is like one of the very best gyms I've ever been to, and I've got like serious respect for Bart Kwan and everything that he's done. And if I could turn Alma's gym into something that's at that level, dude, I'm going to be thrilled. And to have that in a geographical location, like where I'm at here at over 10,000 feet, and have people come here to train to one, have a top tier strength and conditioning facility, and then two, with the high elevation aspect that's inherently part of it. I mean, that would be awesome. And I think, like I was saying on the matter of improving human performance, like being on the forefront of it, I think the high elevation thing is probably going to become more popular as, the years move on.
I love that. I love that. That's I think when maybe in a decade, I move out of New York and have more space, I'd love to just open a gym as well. And I mean, it probably won't be the highest altitude, like Alma, but it's a dream to be able to open a gym, I think, and
Yeah.
uh, have your friends come work out, have people come work out.
Yeah, it's absolutely been a dream come true. And when I opened it up, we're still like in our infancy. Like I opened up last year in July 2nd, 2022 was a grand opening. Um, for the first 9 months or something like that, I was working 100 hours a week, open to close, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days
Wow.
a week.
Wow.
We're closed on Sundays. And that's because, like I need to have a day off. And we don't have a lot of people that live up here that can, work in a gym. They've got a real job someplace. Like, I live in unfortunately, it's a high cost of living area where I'm at. And so, um, working at a gym is not going to pay somebody's bills.
Hmm.
So for the people I do have working at the gym, it's kind of like their side job where, they come, they work the gym, they get a free gym membership, they make, some bucks on the side. And
Yeah.
it's not their primary job. But for me, it's everything I've got. So, I'm there open to close some days. And if it wasn't such a blessing, if it wasn't such an awesome thing that I enjoy so greatly, like there's no way I could do this. Um, there's no way I could sit in an office 100 hours a week. That would like drive me wild. I would
Yeah.
jump out a window or something.
Yeah.
Um, but the gym is just something that I've loved for a long time. And to have my own gym, it's just been amazing to have my own gym in such a small community where, you know, like I don't say I don't think I know everybody in the town, but I know a lot of people in this small town, and I'll I think every week I've got somebody that comes to me um, to, start personal training with me, or they come to me because they've been training in my gym and they just say something phenomenal like, hey, like I had been working out here for, since the spring, the ski season just started, and people are telling me like, hey, like I've been strength training here for 9 months now, and this is the best first day of skiing I've had since I could
Wow.
remember because they're more physically fit. And
Yeah.
so I tell them like, hey, yeah, you're stronger, you're more fit. That's what this gym is here for, so that you can improve yourself in the off season, so that you can go ski or mountain bike, snowboard, whatever. Snowmobile, that's another big one, where you can go do that activity out in the wilderness and just do it that much better. I have a guy, he's in his 50s, been training with me for over a year now, and loves snowmobiling. He's not a big dude. And so if you have like, let's say a 5 or 600 pound snowmobile, it takes a lot of strength to have fun on that thing, and you get tired fast, especially if you get stuck in some deep snow and you got to shovel your snowmobile out. Well, last week he had his first time out on his sled, came back to me. We trained together 5 a.m. Monday mornings, and he's like, Cody, that was the first that was the best first day I've had in years, like before you could even remember. Like, a lot of times those first
Amazing.
day out doing your sport, it's tough. Like it'll break you off. But he had an awesome time. And so it's one of those things where even people who aren't, powerlifters, bodybuilders, they're not serious strength athletes, they're not, competitive lifters or, really steeped in gym culture. Just having this small gym in this little town has benefited people who, though they're not hardcore lifters, they're hardcore about another sport, mountain biking, skiing, snowmobiling, and just getting stronger in the gym. They're realizing just how important it is to do that, to enjoy their sport that much more and to keep enjoying it. I've got people in their 60s and 70s who are still ripping down mountains, and they can do that because they're getting stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, beyond just performing, being able to play their sport, just enjoying daily activity at an
Oh
older
yeah,
age. I mean,
for
it's
sure.
yeah. I mean, my parents are, they're kind of like older generation. They got the older generation Asian culture mindset where they think, once you're past 50, once you're past 60, life is just meant to be on the decline.
Mm,
So, you give up all physical activity. And I feel like that's such a terrible approach because, on the contrary, you see people who are much older, right? Who
yeah,
are still so physically fit. You see people on Instagram who's like 80 years old and deadlifting 300 pounds. I'm just thinking
right.
like, life doesn't have to end, when you reach a certain age.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a woman, she's in her 70s, um, and she's lost 30 something pounds, I believe, since joining the gym. She's gotten
Wow.
stronger, lost weight, and so she can actually go out for a walk, and she fell last year, but was able to get up. She had the strength to get up, like in the middle of the street. And like that kind of stuff can be life changing. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's cool to have a powerlifting gym, but to me, I'm beginning to realize it's a little bit more cool to keep people strong and fit so they can enjoy the life that they're used to living for even longer. So I've got a guy, he used to hold a world record in like the ski jump. He's in his 50s or something now. Has like a knee replacement, needs another knee replacement. This dude is like very like he mentally he's a tough dude. Like he psychologically he's a very sharp guy. It's just that he's wrecked his body doing these like ski jumps. And he's been trained, he never trained the gym, he just skied. But since I opened the gym, he's joined up, he's gotten stronger. And what do you know? Just like so many others, he's like, Cody, I'm skiing on the mountain like I'm 40 again. Like, and he's about to be 60. And so you can regain lost strength and fitness. And almost more importantly, like you can actually get more fit even though you're older. And it's just one of those things that's like, okay, it's cool to see guys lift heavy weights. It's cool to see somebody deadlift 900 pounds, and I appreciate that as a if a guy that came from powerlifting background, somebody who's like a gym rat. I love seeing that. But equally so, I love seeing somebody who's in their 60s or 70s who are coming to the gym constantly, who've lost 20, 30 pounds, who, are just able to go out and have their best mountain bike ride that they've had in decades because they managed to, or I managed rather, to move to their small town, open a gym, and now they can
Incredible.
keep enjoying their sport. It's been just such a blessing to experience that.
Yeah, that's absolutely inspiring.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Still, I'm like in shock. I'm like, holy cow, like I'm doing this. This is changing
Yeah, good
people's
for
lives.
you. Yeah, yeah. To then see that every day, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Cody, I guess
crazy.
to end on the last question here, and I mean, I feel like we can talk for a super long time. But so going to the topic of training for older people, right?
Okay.
What's your advice for an older trainee, maybe 50 years old, let's say, and they want to start strength training? What's
Um,
your prescription?
Start small with very little and work on that daily consistency. So even if it's like, um, someone who's very unfit, maybe their workout is 3 or 4 exercises, 3 sets each. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want you to train to failure. Let me know if this is too hard. I just want them to focus on simply moving. A lot of times these people have very little movement. They might go for walks, like up here in particular, people are like, oh, I walk like 2 miles a day. But their arms and their legs, their core and those things are not getting any kind of direct attention through a full range of motion.
Mm.
So focusing on compound exercises, still working through a full range of motion, very light weights, far away from failure, and then just get them to develop that habit of consistency. Okay, I want to see you in here again tomorrow. You're going to do a very easy workout again tomorrow. Develop that habit of physicality. And that's the biggest thing. And soon enough, that person's going to find, well, these 5 pound weights are too easy now to overhead press. So I'm going to try these 8 pound weights.
Mm.
And then just like any young person who's adding weight to the bar, this person who's in their 50s or 60s, they get excited when they're like, wow, the 5 pound weights are too light now. That means I'm stronger, right? Or they start seeing that their belt size is going down. They start seeing that the scale is showing they're 5 pounds, 10 pounds lighter. But most importantly, the biggest thing is I want to see you in here tomorrow, you know, and
Train every
develop.
day.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot, but doing something physical every day is going to develop that habit much more rapidly, and that
Mm.
person's going to see results faster, even with easy exercises, easy workouts. If they're doing them more frequently, they're going to see results. And then at the same time, they'll be more rapidly developing that appreciation for this newfound physicality. They're going to realize, getting that heavy, you know, Dutch oven off of the top shelf in their cabinet, it's not hard anymore. And maybe that person can then uh, cook a recipe that they haven't been able to cook for the last 10 years because they didn't have the strength to bring that piece of, their kitchen, down from a cabinet, right? So these little things really add up where if you can develop this consistent physicality for someone that's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, developing that consistent physicality is going to unlock more of the world that they live in. A lot of times people as we age, their world gets smaller because they're becoming less fit. They're growing weaker, right? And so they've become trapped by their lack of physicality. But
Mm.
by developing a a habit of physical fitness, of getting a little bit more aerobic capacity, a little bit more stamina, a little bit more strength, that person can go out into a bigger world. Does that make sense? So that's
I
that's the
love the way you
biggest
said
thing.
that.
That
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is the consistency. And you can have to just start with a little bit of effort and patience. Those three things are foundational to physical progress. And really the progress for like almost anything, I would say. Consistency, effort, and patience. Um, but get them to be consistent first, put in a little bit of effort and stay patient. And a person who's in their 50s, 60s, 70s is going to still make progress and they're going to enjoy their life that much more.
Yeah. I love that this is so aligned too with your mission of making the world more fit, improving the performance, improving human performance. I feel like this is it's incredibly inspiring to hear you say that. And I love your mission and I feel like, that's so much aligned with our mission too at Boostcamp.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Yeah, I've been saying, I'm going to make the world a stronger place one person at a time. I've been saying that for years now. And GZCLP was kind of like launching into getting somebody to just like the entry level program, getting someone to just start lifting weights. And, that kind of helped spread it even more rapidly. A lot of times coaches, and I found myself guilty of this, want to cater to that high level athlete. There's a prestige that comes with that.
Hmm.
And I can appreciate that. I'm not saying it's bad. Um, Over the last several years now, I've discovered though just how much I enjoy getting the everyday person a little bit stronger, a little bit more fit, and just that's really accomplishing my mission, like you said. We're making the world stronger one person at a time. And Boostcamp is helping me. I mean, tremendously. We got over 20,000 people
It's
running
wild.
GZCLP. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Yeah. Well, Cody, it's been an amazing conversation
Thanks for having
with
me.
you. Yeah, absolutely. Where's the best place for people to find you?
So I'm most active now on Instagram, and my handle there is at the Fever Fever. So my last name is Lefever. So it's the Fever Fever. It's been my nickname forever, the Fever. Um, So at the Fever Fever on Instagram, you could just Google GZCL, and that's probably going to take you to my blog through some rabbit trail. My blog is Swole at every height. I don't publish very often on there. I try to focus more on quality content that's evergreen. People can return to it and read it again and again and again, and benefit from multiple readings of my blog. So Swole at every height's my blog. I'm on Reddit. That's GZCL is my username. That's what the where all this came from. Was just my activity on Reddit going back to, I mean, over a decade ago. Yeah, and then YouTube. You could just probably go like YouTube search Cody Lefever or GZCL, and that'll pull up my channel, I'm sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Cody.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to getting more programs on Boostcamp.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.